Okay, so Prima lost a shoe, so I thought I would take the opportunity to, my farrier can't get here. She's due anyways. She's at the end of her shoeing cycle. And my farrier can't get here right away. He's gonna come next week. So I'm just gonna show what to do if they lose a shoe, and she has pretty good feet. Not all horses have great feet. But I'm gonna clean out the hoof. She's been turned out. And the problem with losing a shoe, if they have really tough feet, you can go ahead and work them without a shoe. It doesn't make that big of a difference to their movement and balance. It's just a matter of whether or not they're tender-footed. So without the shoe, she's getting a little bit of separation. And like I said, she's due for a trim, so the farrier will be here soon. But what I'm gonna do is dry the foot out, and I'm going to show you how to protect the foot until the farrier can get here. If they're super tender-footed, sometimes you have to leave them inside until they get a shoe. Sometimes you can leave the hoof completely unwrapped and it's fine without a shoe until the farrier can get there. Or sometimes you have to pack it and wrap it, turn them out, leave them in. So this is one of my favorite products in Florida. It's just called Copper Sulfate, and it's a powder. You can get it as a crystal or as a powder, and it's a bright blue color. It's basically just a mineral, copper sulfate. And usually some feed stores will have it, all landscaping supplies will have it. And what I use it for is to dehydrate and disinfect feet, because in Florida, what we're always battling is the feet getting too wet. So that's really only the summer in a lot of climates. Unless you're in a dry, arid place, then you're doing the opposite. When the farrier comes, you're actually soaking the feet with water to soften them up enough for the trim. But in Florida and in wet, humid conditions, the feet absorb the water and start to splay out. And that's the main reason my horses need shoes, is the moisture. So what copper sulfate does is it disinfects, it dehydrates, and sucks the moisture out of the foot, right? So it's good as a thrush preventative, it's good for hardening the feet, and it's good for just hardening up the sole. So I use it two different ways. I mix the powder with water. This one's not very strong, but I just took an old bottle like that, and so I can squeeze that in the nail holes to disinfect the nail holes. I can also use it to rinse the foot off, even over the frog. It's perfectly safe. It won't hurt the skin. It won't hurt your skin or their skin. So you can be pretty sloppy with it. And you can make the solution bright blue, really strong, or you can make it kind of a light blue. The other thing I do is I pack the powder, the copper sulfate, I mix it with a hoof conditioner, because hoof conditioners and conditioners that are supposed to seal the hoof from getting too wet, in Florida, and I'm sure other hot, humid places or wet conditions, those conditioners can actually trap moisture in the foot. So I never really use a hoof conditioner other than for this purpose, which is as a carrier for the copper sulfate. So the hoof conditioner mixed with probably in this container 4 cups of the copper sulfate powder. It just disintegrates and it makes this sort of black blue goo. And so what the hoof conditioner does is it just carries the copper sulfate into wherever you pack the foot. So to keep the foot really dry and disinfect it, and especially here between the sole and the hoof wall, which will start to separate when you lose a shoe, I'm just gonna take that copper sulfate hoof conditioner mix and I'm gonna pack it in there, the whole bottom of the foot. And so the conditioner doesn't really soften up the bottom of the foot too much like a wet hoof. if the hoof's absorbing water, it's going to get pretty soft pretty fast. With the hoof conditioner on the sole, it's not really going to trap moisture in there with the copper sulfate. It's going to carry that copper sulfate in to act as a dehydrator to the foot. So it's actually going to suck moisture out rather than trying to prevent moisture from getting in. Oh, and boy, is it messy.